Hey, how are you? Well, welcome to video 3. Super excited to have you back if you are coming back. Today, I am going to show you how I set up my kiln, how I fire my kiln. And if you remember those 2 pots from video 1, we're going to be revisiting those pots as we fire them off. So a little bit of a look back to go forward. Actually, this video that you're about ready to watch was filmed when there was still snow on the ground. So a little bit different than this beautiful spring day that we're having with the birds chirping in the background, but ultimately really excited to show you how my kiln is set up. And just the setup, my husband is kind of the mastermind around a lot of this. When we got the kiln, we knew it was going to have to be outside. So we wanted to protect it naturally. This is how we chose to do it. Really excited for you to check it out and see what it's all about. We're going to go ahead and fire off this kiln today. And fire these 2 pots that I've been working on with you all. So I'm headed out back. My kiln is in the backyard. And it's been a little bit snowy, so I'm treading lightly. But the goal will be to get this thing fired off and see what happens whenever they come out. I hope they come out well. Okay, so this is my setup. I've got it in a garage, not a garage, a garbage type of thing. And I put these bricks on top because after we first put this together, we had a storm come through and I didn't have the bricks on top, and this whole thing flew open and my kiln got rained on all night. But it's really a pretty awesome little setup. It keeps everything good to go. I don't know if I'm going to be able to open this. I'm going to have to kind of smash this down. Yeah. Another challenge. Let's figure it out. Okay, here we go again. Got it opened. A little ingenuity here. A little water balloon from summertime. But yeah, so this is the setup. So as you can see, this kind of opens up. Probably the worst thing about this setup is this bar right here. It's kind of annoying to bend down over top of that bar, but ultimately, there's my kiln. Skutt is probably the best kilns out there, in my opinion. We had them in college. I loved them ever since then. They're consistent, they fire well, they're easy to work on for those people, like they're well known, so just really easy for our local person to work on it, help me replace the elements and all that good jazz. And then as you can tell, it's an automatic fire, so really appreciate that. You also notice it's off. So when we constructed this area, what we did is we put a shut off down in the basement. Ultimately that's just for the safety of everyone involved in case this thing doesn't stop firing. But also we really wanted to make sure that we weren't running it all the time, because again, I don't throw all the time. So this is a pretty decent setup. Typically what I'll do is I'll set my mugs or my wares right here, and then I will pop open the kiln and start to load it. I always end up making, like putting like size things together. And then another thing that I do is, because of the wind, I always typically put these puppies to block the thing from coming back at me. Because it has hit me in the butt and it also has broken things. So again, you live, you learn, and then you move on. So I can't get this open anymore without cutting back some more ice. I'm only loading 2 pieces, so I'm not really going to worry about it. I realize this kiln is a little overkill for just 2 pieces. Man, I would love one of those tiny baby kilns. I think that'd be awesome just to kind of do some test stuff, but that's for another time, sometime whenever, you know, I have some funds to do it. So another thing, I did actually get this kiln off Facebook Marketplace from a lady who was kind of getting out of it. And she had the EnviroLink, which I absolutely love, but you can tell it's not hooked up right now. And that is because my EnviroVent, which is kind of connected out the side over here, right there, is completely rusted out. So I don't know if I can show you in there, but you get in there good, and that puppy is rusted. So it doesn't work anymore. And the reality is that I like the EnviroVent. It's really good for making sure airflow gets through the kiln from top to bottom. which is why even with the kiln being outside, I was really interested in connecting it. But again, lesson learned, when you're outside, you are exposed to the elements, and that puppy just rusted up. So this space is also at the back of the house, and this side of the house doesn't get any sun. So that moisture just collects, as you can tell. I mean, like the yard out here is like completely snow free, and then you have this area that's not. So we're not getting sun back here. And I think that's another reason why we rushed it out like we did. So, you know, again, you live and you learn. So this little puppy right here, love this thing. I have had this for years. It is metal, and it's this shelving unit, and I use it for my kiln shelves. But I absolutely love it because it's metal, and you've got a kiln that fires at 2,000 plus degrees. So just really, really excited about that. Also, I did splurge and give myself some Advancer cookies. As you can tell, I've got some residual on there from my last go around. And they kind of look like that, but what I've learned is they just scrape off so well. So we're actually going to use these two today just because they're pretty clean, and get these two little guys fired off. So I'm going to set my phone down and kind of finagle it so I can kind of talk you through everything that I'm doing. But before I do that, I'm just going to lift up the kiln. So again, I have to go under to go up, and that's just part of it. And then connect that on. We lost the little pin there that goes there, so I have to manually connect it instead of taking it off from down there. And then you can tell I still have my my stilts in here from all the ornaments I was making last year. Please do not judge my kiln shelves and their dirtiness. So I'm going to load these things in there. I'm going to set you guys precariously right there so you can see me load it in. And this is not going to be difficult at all. The great thing about this is that I am only loading two things. So a little demo here of what I'm doing. So I have a stilt on the top of this cookie, this Advancer cookie, and I'm just going to put it right there. And then I'm going to get my other one, get another stilt here, put it right there, and do that. I like the cookies better because I know they're not going to stick. You remember, I wiped the bottoms, so we have no glaze along the bottom. And then I am going to set that in there just like so. Now, if I had a full load, full kiln load, at the bottom, nothing on there. If I had a full kiln load, then I would need to make sure that none of these pieces touch the sidewalls. None of these pieces touched the kiln furniture, and absolutely they cannot touch each other. Now this has happened before, so when you just use the stilts, it's very, very possible and likely that when you do that, you will end up having some things fall over on you in the kiln, or the piece, whatever it is, will kind of melt into the kiln. Had that happen before. Additionally, you guys can't see it, I'm going to tilt you a little bit. So this right here is kind of worn out. You can see there's a little bit of a crack there. I've had this set up for about 3 years now, so it's probably about time to get that replaced and updated. I thought about doing like a YouTube video or finding a YouTube video to do it on my own, but then there's a part of me that's just like, you know what, let's not and say we did. So this is all done. Like I am completely done loading this. So what I'm going to do next is I am going to go ahead and close the kiln top, and I'm going to go downstairs and turn on my breaker. So that way I can go ahead and get this thing started. And then I'll show you how I set the kiln up and how I put it on automatic fire. But yeah, we're just going to try out these two pieces and then we'll be back. All right, so again, the kiln is on. So with the kiln being on, we're going to go ahead and set the firing schedule. We're going to plug up our peepholes because we are doing a glaze firing. I'm not going to plug the top one until a little bit later on. We want to make sure that that really gets the opportunity. Any moisture in the kiln has the opportunity to come out. Sometimes you're dealing with moisture on the glazes aren't completely dried out. I feel like I'm okay there. What I don't feel like I'm okay with is the fact that the kiln itself has been sitting outside. It sits outside. So naturally, being kind of surrounded by all of the snow, it is going to have some moisture that just kind of hangs out in there. So with that being said, we want that to come out. We don't want that to hang out in the kiln. Because of the environment, I do have some little peepholes where that moisture can escape. But if we can go ahead and make sure that, you know, all of it comes out, that's ideal. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna flip you guys around so you can kind of watch me set this, and then we'll start the firing. Okay, here we go. So as you can tell, it's on. So it's telling me that the last one was complete. So I'm gonna hit stop, and now it says idle. That's really important. So we're gonna do a cone fire, and it's asking me how much I want to preheat it for. Today, no preheat. So I hit enter. It asks me what cone I want to set it for. So that says cone 06. We are not going for cone 06. We are going for cone 6 only. There is a big difference between cone 06 and cone 6. So next, speed, we're gonna fire on slow. The only time we fire on medium or even fast is really when we're kind of talking about something that I don't like to do. I used to fire on fast, thinking that it was okay in a glaze firing, but I found that that's when I would get crazing and cracking and all the things that you don't want with a glaze firing. So I've just decided slow is the name of the game until I find out otherwise. So we've got slow, we hit enter, and now it's asking me if I want to hold the temperature. So what this means is whenever it gets all the way up to that cone 6 temperature, then I have the option to hold it for a certain amount of time to allow everything to kind of melt into each other. So I typically like a 5-minute hold. So we're going to put a 5 there, and we're going to hit enter. So if you look and you see this little tiny dot, I don't know if you guys can see that. See that little tiny dot? If it was on this side of it, that would be a hold for 5 hours. Heck no, we don't want that. This, if I had the 5 over here, it would be 50 minutes. We don't want that. We want 5 minutes only. So remember, this is when you go over an hour. So hit enter, and now it's done and it's set. So I always like to review, just making sure that everything's good. So cone 06, there's the temperature, speed is slow, hold is 5, preheat 0. We are all good. So we're gonna go ahead and let that thing finish out. We're gonna hit start. It goes back to idle and start one more time. So it says it's on. Can you hear that clicking? I don't know if you can hear the clicking. This is how I know the elements are firing, and they say, hey, there's something I need to start doing. So we're gonna hear those elements fire, and that's how I know the kiln is on. In the past, I would know because the enviro vent would turn on and make some noise, but this time I don't know that. So the last thing we're gonna do is we're gonna plug those peepholes, leaving the very, very last one not plugged. So these are peepholes, peephole plugs or peep plugs, and we're gonna cover this open. So why does a kiln have peephole cover or peepholes to begin with? Well, when you're doing an underglaze firing, no matter how bone dry you make your stuff, it's still gonna have some moisture in it. And so when that kiln starts to go, you wanna make sure that all that moisture comes out of the kiln. So there's peepholes all the way down the side of the kiln to help the moisture escape depending on how many layers that you have. So that's really important for an underglaze firing, to make sure you don't have those holes. I know some people even pop the top lid a little bit to make sure that all of that moisture escapes. That moisture cannot escape out of the kiln, and it is absolutely going to impact your pots and how they turn out. So very important. So we are all set. This puppy is about ready to fire. Now, the setup. I'm not going to leave this up. I could if I know for sure 100% of the time that it is not going to rain. But I don't like to bank my money on that. I do live in Kentucky, so you never know. So I'm going to take my old Kentucky rock that we found whenever we bought this house. It's going with me wherever I go. I just love it. We dug it up out of the landscaping, and this is like my rock, right? So I put that rock right there, and I still close this up. And the point of that is to make sure that the kiln does not receive any moisture, specifically right here on the control box. And that's not going to happen unless we get some sideways rain in here. I should not have any moisture come down on that kiln. And then I'm going to take my other brick and I'm going to put it on top to make sure that if we get some crazy wind, that it does not impact that. So here we are. And as you can tell, the wind just took that away. So one last brick in order to make sure that this stays open and this does not fly out on us. So we're gonna keep that open with this guy. And then later on tonight, because this takes about 18 hours to fire, well, it takes about 13 hours to fire, 13, 14, sometimes 16, depending on how cold it is and how long it's taking to get up to temperature. With only 2 mugs in there, I'm gonna say it's probably gonna take about 13. But whenever it gets up to temperature, it still has to cool down. I can't open this kiln until it is at least under 250 degrees. If you open it any sooner, you run the risk of shocking your pots. So if any of you have ever shocked a piece of ceramics, or you've put in glass into a microwave and then put it into cold water and it breaks, that's what I mean by that. Sometimes they don't break, but they'll crack or they'll chip or the glaze will pull away or ping. Pinging is another thing, and pinging is not something that you want. So anyway, we're gonna leave this situation just like this. And then, you know, I know this, it might sound silly to some, but I remember in college, we were always like, oh, it's up to the kiln gods now. You've loaded the kiln, it's up to them. Well, I like to say it's up to my God. And so I'll say a prayer over the kiln. It's just a very simple prayer. I learned a long time ago that the power of prayer is important. Doesn't always work, but just saying a quick prayer over the kiln, first to fire correctly, and then also to make sure that, you know, hopefully it's successful, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to do that with you guys on here, and then we'll close out the video for now. Dear Heavenly Father, I just thank you so much for the opportunity and the skills that you've given me to throw these 2 pots, and the idea that you've given me to go with these 2 pieces of, or these 2 mugs. Really excited, Lord, for what they may turn out of the kiln, but also understand they may not, and I'm good either way. I pray, Lord, over this kiln. I pray that it fires correctly, that it finishes firing, and that it starts to come down on temperature. And I thank you so much again for just the skills and the ability you've given me to have this kiln, to be able to throw pottery, and ultimately share it with the world. In Jesus' name, amen. It is time to unload the kiln. I came out here just a few seconds ago just to check on the temperature, and the temperature is good to go. It is at 255 degrees. It's pretty close. So we're gonna pop it and let's see what we got. Just as an FYI, I have not opened this, so I don't know what to expect. So let's, oh, not her head. I have to do this every time. Check it out. Oh, okay. Well, these are pretty colorful. Okay, let me get my gloves on and flip this puppy around. Show you what we got. All right, guys, around the right way. So look at that. What I don't want you to focus on too much is obviously all of that down at the bottom. We can get rid of that. Get those colors in there. You can see some of those hearts kind of slid down. Wow. Interesting. That is colorful. All right, now this is the one. Look at that. Covered up those hearts, but man, those hearts wanted to pop through. Sorry, I keep changing the thing. Right. Interesting. Okay, so all of this extra down here, we're gonna shave off, so I don't want you to worry about that. But look at those advancers right there. And look at the bottom of that. What a mess. So truthfully, I think the next time I do these drippies, I'm probably gonna put them on stilts and put the advancers below them to catch the drips, but not prevent the drips from happening. If you remember, I put this on very thick. I really wanted it to flow, and it flowed. Look at the inside. Look at the inside. So not 100% done, but they will be, and they're gonna look pretty freaking fantastic. I love that little drip right there. I don't know if you can see that. Sorry. I know they look so fun on the bottom, but don't worry about it. And I'm digging this. I think this is pretty cool. All right, we're gonna let them cool down a little bit and we'll come back out and grab them. And then the next step is sand them down.